What up? All my scientists, my artists, my philosophers, my geneticists, my roboticists, my biologists, my archaeologists, my astronomers. Let's get busy. This has been Busy from the Burbs. Cheer. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Busy from the Burbs, broadcasting to you from Osaka, Japan. I'm joined by my co-host, AJ McComb, out of South Carolina.
And today we are joined with a special guest, Alan Moore, and he is from his Instagram, Trailer Park Master Chef. How's it going, Alan?
Pretty good, man. How you guys doing?
Oh, couldn't do better. Couldn't even be better.
Good to hear, man. I'm happy to be here.
So what's going on, Alan? We haven't talked to you for a while. For those who don't know, I don't know if we. Does it matter? Like we all served together in the military.
Yeah.
And then
seems like a long time ago now, huh?
It does, doesn't it? A lot has happened. A lot has changed. But tell us, like, what have you been up to lately? Tell us about Trailer Park Master Chef. Like, tell us, give us an update on Alan's world.
Oh, man. Okay. So I got out of the Marine Corps in Beaufort in 2013. And then after that, I had already met my wife, Stephanie. We had already gotten married.
Outstanding.
We moved up to her hometown in Newberry, South Carolina. And we were looking around at houses. Everything was kind of expensive, and we had a baby on the way. So we had a huge rush to get into a house.
Where did you guys meet?
We met in Savannah, Georgia.
Like, was that just while you were serving? Was it on
Actually,
Liberty?
funny enough, we actually met like the worst possible way you could meet.
I want to hear it.
Plenty of Fish, man.
Oh, Plenty of Fish. So it's by the internet.
Plenty of Fish. Yeah, we met on Plenty of Fish.
It was an internet romance. You know, I hear a lot more relationships are starting via the internet these days. A lot of relationships. And
yeah, it tends to be a more normal thing, I think, now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, technology.
But we met on like the worst one. Like eHarmony could have been cool. Like you could meet on pretty much any other website. Like Ashley Madison would probably be preferable to Plenty of Fish on some levels.
I mean, but your information would be known by a lot of people. So I mean,
yeah. So I guess not.
I tried that before I met my wife, but I was using Grindr, and there were no matches. It was all guys. I was like, where are the females?
Japan just must be really heavy with male dating app users.
So anyway, not that there's anything wrong with that, but so you guys met through Plenty of Fish. You brokered a relationship, and you know the rest is history, right?
Yeah. And then we moved out here. Moved into a trailer, and you know I grew up with my dad cooking in the kitchen, you know, and he was a chef or restaurant manager for like 28 years, and in that time he picked up a whole lot of food experience, like
what kind of restaurant
stuff like that. Anything from French restaurants, Cuban restaurants, really high end stuff. Mostly like Grand Marriotts, Hiltons, stuff like that, and he'd work he managed the restaurants in those types of hotels.
How often do you go to the grocery store?
Man, probably with the baby, probably twice a week, one big trip.
And then like a support trip, like a re-up trip?
Like if we need something or if we got something, we'll go back and grab something.
Yeah.
I have the biggest problem with groceries because it's just me and my fiance, and half the stuff we buy either expires or goes, like we don't use it and then it's expired, or
super solution for that. What's the solution? When you first start, it's all on how much you cook, because you're only cooking for two people, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes when you shop, you really want to get, like, you'll see a bag of potatoes and you'll be like, I'm gonna get this whole goddamn bag of potatoes. Well, then you get it and you use like a quarter of them, and then maybe you don't touch those potatoes for like 2 weeks. Well, now like half of them are bad. You got like 3 left. You just wasted all those potatoes and you didn't even use them. It's a real big pain to plan your meals, but if you get good at a couple little things, you can just split up and make whatever with whatever you have. So like if one night you look and you have like 3 onions, like 3 tomatoes and a couple potatoes, you can be like, okay, well, I can do like oven roasted potatoes and like pasta with like tomatoes and olive oil. And then you can use some of your ingredients instead of just having like a whole crap load. Because we had that problem too, or I did when I first started cooking at home, and like we'd have tons of stuff left over. We had a Sam's membership for like no reason. It was ridiculous.
Did you cancel your Sam's membership?
Honestly, we just don't use it out here because there isn't one. So like the nearest one is like 45 minutes away, so we just never got another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can grow stuff out here too. I haven't bought peppers in like probably like 4 months.
So what are you gonna do?
We have all my peppers grown.
Winter comes in. Are you gonna still be able to grow anything? You have like
There's some stuff you can grow in the winter. We actually got to start planting here pretty soon, if I'm correct. Like cabbage, stuff like that grows up until. What do you think? Probably December. I'm not certain about the growing ranges, to be honest with you, because we're still kind of a little bit new in figuring everything out, but we're getting better as we go.
Now you're originally from Florida. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
So what are the growing seasons like down there? Can you grow year round tomatoes?
Yeah, just about. If I'm correct, you can grow whenever you want. Yeah, my mom grows pineapples down there in our backyard.
It's a great place for agriculture.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, man. But she has a friend who literally grows palm trees on her property and sells them. Like, she just has like random solar panels out there, and they sell power back to the power company. She has like an oil tanker on her property. It's pretty crazy.
An interesting fact about pineapples is in the South, back like 1800s and up, people would place pineapples on a fireplace to signify that you're a welcome guest. And once the pineapple was taken down, then you were no longer a welcome guest, and it was kind of like a polite way of saying, hey, you need to go. You need to get out of my house.
It's like we're out of toilet paper, and you're not paying for shit.
Yeah, but this is like you're making our servants work too much, so you need to go.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I
didn't know that.
We found that out when we were in Savannah visiting, and we were asking why there's pineapples in every room, and because it was like a show house to show how they lived back in the day, and that's.
Were you in downtown Savannah?
We saw everything downtown Savannah. It was awesome.
Dude, we lived like 10 minutes from there. I miss it so much.
We were in there in August 2014. First week of August was when we were.
Oh, yeah, we were living down there. Wait, no, August 2014. We were in Savannah, right? Yeah, I think we had just left.
Sweet, man.
In July, if I'm correct.
I mean, we went to the animal reserve out there, that like 26,000 acre like.
Yeah, we used to drive around that on the weekends.
We were there. This funny story. We were there. We saw an alligator. Like we saw his head sticking out, floating in the water. And then off in the distance, I see an alligator go into the water, and you could see his air bubbles like getting closer and closer to the alligator. And he literally goes underneath the alligator. I don't know if he like grazed him or whatever, but the alligator that he grazed cleared the water, and his little alligator legs are like flapping like crazy. I mean, it was one of the funniest things I've seen that's happened like naturally like that. It was just I'll never forget the image.
Wait a minute. There was an alligator in the water. Yeah. And it was drowning in the what happened?
It was just sunbaking in the water, just sitting there, enjoying the sun, whatever alligators do in the water.
As alligators do. Yeah.
And then the other alligator saw him and was like, man, he's having too much fun. I'm going to go over there and mess with him. So, like, literally you see his air bubbles getting closer and closer underwater, like, come up out of the water. And then just all of a sudden the air bubbles go away, and then the alligator jumps out of the water, and you can see his little legs flapping. It was just, it's just one of those images, like, you didn't think alligators could do that.
They do have those
pretty crazy, man.
They can jump out of the water. They jump.
Yeah, they can propel themselves with their tails really fast. Their tails are like crazy strong.
That's what it is.
So they coil it up, and they can push off the bottom and come up out of the water.
And I saw it firsthand. It was crazy.
I was told that if you ever have to run away from an alligator, not to do it in a straight line because they can beat you in a foot race. You got to zigzag.
Yeah. Yo, alligators are super dumb. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. Like,
I will fucking kill an alligator. I don't give a fuck. I will murder their entire species.
If you get killed by an alligator, like, you're an idiot because you can see them coming 9 times out of 10. And yeah, they can run fast and they'll catch you, but it's like normal shit, like the zigzag pattern thing. Obviously, you would use that. Trees, they can't climb. Like, and 9 times out of 10, they're not going to chase you for very far because they don't want to get far away from the water.
Well, and they're not like full on. They're sprinters. They're not distance runners.
Yeah.
So they're gonna attempt to get you, and if they can't, they're like, "Oh, well, you're messing up. You're not my dinner today."
What's the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? Crocodiles are bigger
way more aggressive,
and they live in Australia.
Yeah, they're way more aggressive.
Well,
I think the
crocodiles.
saltwaters are more aggressive and the freshwater not so much, but I'm pretty sure they're more aggressive than alligators all around.
Oh, so a crocodile is saltwater.
They're both. They have both.
Yeah, I think crocodile is the style of like what do you call it? Brown bear, polar bear.
Yeah, it's their nose.
It's
Their
just
nose is like more
different
narrow
style.
than an alligator's. They're different species for sure.
Yeah, alligators got like that oblong, like rectangle, whereas a crocodile, it's more pointy shape, but it's still rectangular. At the end of
okay,
it,
yeah,
it's
I
more
gotcha.
pointy shape.
Yeah, and they're typically bigger too, right? They're a larger species, the crocodile.
Yeah, they.
I think generally speaking, yeah. Alligators get up to like, I think the biggest one I've ever heard of is like 20 feet, maybe 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But like crocodiles get way bigger than that.
When I was living in Georgia, they were having like paying people to catch alligators because it was a big problem. And this group of guys caught one 17 and a half feet, and it was freaking like 2,000 pounds. It was like ridiculous, like it could have been a car. They basically caught a car, but as an animal.
Wait, this was an alligator or a crocodile?
Alligator, because it was down.
The average alligator is 13.1 feet and 790 pounds.
Yeah, so
they're skinny though. I mean, I'm not saying that they're
alligators
not big.
are the thick ones. Alligators are the thick ones.
Yeah, they got the
crocodiles are more
fat
skinny.
bodies.
Really, I thought the crocodiles were bigger.
No,
I thought they were.
Well, I mean, they could be longer, but I'm pretty sure that they have more narrow jaws.
Okay.
So
let me see. Yeah, they get up to between 14 and 17 feet for saltwater.
What movie was it?
I think between 14 and 17 feet for saltwater or freshwater.
Definitely.
Have you ever seen the James Bond movie, Live and Let Die?
I have not.
It's been a while.
There's a scene there where the Bond has to jump over these crocodiles, like it's like that old video game. I forget the name of it. Anyway, he's got to he steps on their mouths, their heads, like they're stepping stones. But you have to do it really quickly, right? Because they try to bite you. Well, this poor bastard that was the stunt man for the movie had to do it like 6 times. And he had to do it 6 times. They finally got the take, but it's like the director was just torturing this guy.
That's
you
like before actors unions.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
they're like,
fuck you,
hey,
do this. We're paying you money.
They're like, hey Joey, hey, can you go? Come on, we need another take. He's like,
get your fucking nephew over here. He'll fucking do it for like $24.
Yeah, get Paulie over here.
You ain't gotta pay him no fucking commission.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the video of all the outtakes on YouTube where the guy's coming within a hair's breadth of having his leg torn from his kneecap.
Oh, Jesus, that's not good.
Nowadays, you just CG that, so I don't know.
See, I think we should just murder proactively all unfriendly species like crocodiles. We just seek them out.
There's no point.
Well,
then everything else could get overpopulated, though. I think there is a certain level of balance.
Okay, that is. The only species I've heard that you could remove from the biosphere without it appreciably affecting the overall food chain is the mosquito. I've heard that we could kill all mosquitoes in the world, which, by the way, mosquitoes are the number one most dangerous animal in the world next to human beings. Like
encephalitis ain't no joke.
They do transmit the malaria. Most diseases.
Yeah.
They are transmitting most diseases.
Yeah, they carry a shitload of diseases, encephalitis, malaria, the fevers and shit.
I try to collect them all,
You've been gay.
Exactly. You need that. That's why it's there. You need that to cool it off, to heat it up, Icy hot. It doesn't have anything on the gay.
Speaking of movies, there's a movie coming out this Friday, The Martian.
I want to see it.
I am ecstatically excited. If that's even a
I'm
word.
all about it.
It looks like it's a legit Martian movie. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like some far-fetched idea, because they used the premise from the book. What is it? Oh, shit. The Road to Mars or something like that. But they used the premise of the book where you set up a habitat, and then when you let it sustain itself by it growing a greenhouse, and then you send people to it. So, like, it can sustain.
Oh, they're like setting up a biosphere before they get there.
Yeah, but it's like a little habitat that you live inside it, and the book writes it out that it's it's feasible, it's doable, it's not nothing far fetched. They're not trying to like terraform Mars and to make it a habitable planet. They're just making a little habitat hub where you live inside that's habitable for a human being. But it's only for so long because you can only store so much fuel and water and stuff because they use this engine to generate hydrogen to create water and create power and stuff like that and use solar energy. So anyways, the movie is kind of like Interstellar, which is also one of my favorite movies that's come out in a long time, where it's as accurate as it can be without, with still being like Hollywood, where it's going to, there's probably going to be some stuff that's like, that's not possible. But
how was that Interstellar movie? I haven't seen it yet.
It is.
It was good.
I think, and I'm maybe a little biased, but I think it is one of the greatest movies that's come out in the past 5 years.
Oh wow!
Really good.
It's super scientific. I mean, all the things that it's talking about are theories, but it presents them in a way that is believable. It's not nothing far fetched. So the theory of the time relativity, because they go to a planet where an hour on the planet is like 7 years. So they have to make all these decisions based off of time being a resource, to where if you go
gotcha, because the longer they're there, the longer that time passes on Earth, so they have to hurry up and
I mean,
pick and choose what's important to get done, something along those lines.
I mean, it's really it's really a great movie. One, especially if you can watch it in HD or 4K, the way it's just shot so cinematically that it's one, pleasing to watch, and two, it really gets your mind going. From time relativity to distance travel. I mean, really, it's pretty awesome. And they got the robots that are their assistants. They're pretty funny. I like those guys.
Do you know what's a good movie?
What's that?
A Forrest Gump, man. That's a good fucking movie. I'm telling you right now.
Call me Forrest Gump.
I'm just messing with you. I need to see Interstellar though.
No, Forrest Gump is a good movie.
I hear it's great.
And when we
Interstellar was good. I mean, there was actual I don't know if this was touched on, but there was actual new research came out of that designing what a black hole looks like in that movie.
Oh,
so
wow.
there were actual science was done. There's a paper that's published as a result of the design or the research that they were doing for how to portray visually a black hole. So,
what was your opinions on that, Ben?
I liked the film. I thought that there was maybe a couple points where he's controlling the drone with one hand with this computer, and that was kind of absurd. But I mean, I had a visceral emotional reaction to the film. Any film that can give me an actual emotional reaction,
response, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
What about the black hole itself?
It was pretty amazing to look at.
Really?
Yeah, how it refracts and reflects light, and there's this phenomenon known as gravitational lensing, whereby light is bent when it comes into when it nears something with a lot of gravity.
Oh, okay. So something with a large gravitational pull can affect the path of light.
Right, and it gives it this spherical. I can't really describe it. We can link it in the available links. People can check it out. But The Martian. I don't know, AJ, if you had a chance to watch the interview that Andy Weir, the author of the book, did with Jason Calacanis at This Week in Startups. But it's a really good interview. I highly recommend it. Weir talks about his writing method. And it was thoroughly researched. I mean, Andy Weir, he's got the seal of approval from basically every astrobiologist or astrogeologist, xenobiologist in the game. Astrophysicists, astroastronomers, they're all yeah, he's good to go. He knows more about making Mars habitable than Elon Musk does. Elon Musk's, I think what did he say? He's We should just drop nukes on the. Well, we should just drop a bunch of nukes on the on the poles.
I think it was on Stephen Colbert. He said that where dropping nukes would basically like kickstart the planet. I think that's where I heard it on.
Right. The thing is,
like
it has
mini Big Bang effect somehow.
Well, like the idea is the nuclear bombs would heat
up the atmosphere.
Yeah, it would create a cloud that would heat the planet up.
Oh, and create like a greenhouse effect.
Yeah, and then water would be created, and water creates life.
That's crazy. That actually would probably work.
The thing is, Mars has no magnetosphere. Like the iron core that's supposed to be like generating a magnetosphere and by extension an ionosphere to trap all of that stuff doesn't exist. It has no magnetic pull anymore. So
it's just
even
gonna fly off.
Yeah, it'll fly off.
You ever heard of the dial theory?
No.
It's this theory that, like if you picture like a MIDI board, all the dials on it, that Earth has been set to all these dial positions, like the angle of the tilt of the Earth.
That's intelligent design. Yeah, that's like a derivative. That's like a that's part of.
We're made by Steven Spielberg.
But it also goes into fact like how the habitable zone, like the green zone,
the Goldilocks zone,
the amount of oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, everything. Like if you change one of these, you lose life on planet Earth. And trying to find another habitable planet that reflects that is like the biggest part of finding one in the Goldilocks zone.
It
obviously exists. There's like no possible way it couldn't. The odds of it not existing are probably less than it actually existing. There's everything's infinite.
It exists. Yeah, I'm sure it exists in profusion.
Even if a planet that is identical to ours exists with no life on it, it still exists. Like it's impossible for it not to.
I think we're all in agreement that the math just kind of speaks to the fact that there is life elsewhere.
I'm not even good at math. I've just spent a lot of time like thinking about infinity and what that entails, and like that in itself is enough.
Yeah.
To just be like, yeah, there's no fucking way. Like it has to.
I heard it explained to me that infinity was not a number. Infinity is a quality of a set of numbers. In that there are certain sets of numbers. There's a really good documentary on this called Dangerous Knowledge, which is about this guy named Gödel, not Gödel Escher Bach, but it was Gödel and this guy named Cantor, who was a mathematician. I think he was a British mathematician, and he studied infinity, and he studied things like the Zeno paradox, which is that Zeno's paradox states that in order for me to go from where I'm sitting now to my kitchen, first, I need to go from where I'm sitting now to the midway point between where I'm sitting now and my kitchen. But in order to get to that midway point, I need to go to the midway point between where I'm sitting now and that midpoint, and so on. And you have infinite regression. Well, studying this, as you might imagine, drove Cantor insane.
It hurts your head, dude.
Yeah.
When you think about it for too long, like it starts hurting your brain. I have to stop. It makes me tired.
It literally drove him crazy. I highly recommend the documentary. It's really interesting. But yeah, infinity is a fucking mindfuck.
Yeah, you can't even like begin to think about it for real. Like you'll get right there where you'll think that you actually might I sound like I'm talking about some level of meditation, but like not really. Like I'll just be like driving and like for some reason that'll come up in my head and I'll start thinking about it. And then just like I try to wrap my mind around the fact that there's not only too many things to count, that like there's probably too many things to even like possibly understand. Like, fuck. It hurts so bad.
Yeah, I can't. It's one of those mind-boggling things. Like trying to think like how big space is.
Yeah.
That's one thing I do when I'm driving. Like trying to like visualize how big a galaxy is and how many galaxies are across the. Like it's just whoa. Okay, whatever. I'm done with that.
It's incredible.
Like I can throw a baseball about 30 fucking yards, and that's pretty good for me. Like I don't know how someone manages to get like a rocket on Mars.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hey, did you guys seen the video of Speaker John Boehner resigning?
I've heard about
yeah. Yeah, I think you had mentioned it earlier that I actually hadn't gotten a chance to like no, I did find that video. It's hilarious.
So Speaker John Boehner, however you want to say it, comes up on the stage walking out of the door of the stage. He's like, dippity doo da, dippity day, and then goes into this long talk about how he's resigning from the Speaker of the House, and then he quotes some Saint Francisco or I don't know. See, he quotes some Catholic prayer.
Francis of Assisi.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
This is all after meeting the Pope. So I don't know if he's had an epiphany, the Pope, blessed him or something. But
I bet he blessed him with some money. He looked pretty happy.
Did you see his face when he introduced the Pope? He was standing behind him, and his face was in such a bizarre contortion. As we all know, John Boehner is quite emotional, right? He cries at the drop of a hat. And that's not to fault the guy, He's emotional. It's just the way that he is. But it's kind of, I don't know, his mood swings are kind of concerning. That would be concerning for me.
But
it's probably good that he stepped down.
Yeah, there's Republicans and Democrats that are happy that he's stepping down because he wasn't working with anybody, really. He's up there like a stone wall, just, whatever.
That seems to be the problem with the whole congressional system that's in place now anyway. It's such a farce. Like, you can have somebody in power that can veto anything, and then you have everybody else in Congress that can just sit on something. So you can literally sit there and collect a paycheck. Nothing gets done, but you still get paid. And then you can sit there and like bitch about people who are mad about income inequality and like people who are talking about like the 99%, when in reality, like you're sucking up all the tax dollars that these people are paying in with your shitty paycheck. And then you get raises too. And then you get raises when you go on like government shutdowns.
You get to make your own raises. You get to vote on your own pay raise. Should we all take a pay raise?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Unopposed.
There's just a chorus of aye.
It's such a joke.
And you get it for life. Like, what is that about? I think that there should be term links set for any position in Congress or the House, like 2 or 3. I don't know.
Everyone's going to have to die. And then, like, all the neocons are going to have to, like, come out as a farce. Because they're never going to stop. Like, it's just that never-ending, just shitty cycle of people that have never had to endure any type of hardship in their life, and they get into positions of power and just, like, shit on everybody.
When you see the poll numbers, when you see how Trump is polling, he's polling so high. When you see Bernie Sanders is outperforming or outpolling Clinton or making it difficult for her, I think there's a sentiment, there's a groundswell of people of American people that are just they're fed up with the business as usual for real this time though. Like this isn't like before. I don't know. I get that sense that like maybe
there's a larger following, I think, and I think the millennial population has a lot to do with it. To be honest with you, they're more active, they feel more involved, and like I can speak that from being in that perspective. From kind of being in that generation myself. And Macomb, you're kind of on the same, I don't know if you're on the same page politically, but you're like kind of on the same boat, I'm sure. Like people are more involved in politics now than ever, especially because of social media.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Social media is allowing, because everyone has a voice, everyone's a critic, everyone, can instantly talk to anybody, right? I mean, I've tried to talk.
It's fucking amazing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really is.
I think we take that for granted a lot. Like we're in. I mean, me and Macomb are in the same state, but Ben's in Osaka.
Yeah,
it's around the world, and we're all sitting here having a conversation like we're sitting at the same table. That's powerful shit.
That is powerful.
But the thing though that I am most irritated about is the people that we elected take it as like a joke. It almost seems we'll just go on, like a strike, whatever, shut the government down.
They're getting that pill money. They don't give a shit.
I believe Ben shared something last week where in Japan there was like a full-on fist fight over a debate of a bill or something. Like
going back to war.
Yeah, this needs to happen.
The Japanese were going offensive again.
In America, like I just picture, 200 years ago, some senators like just straight fist fighting on like the Congress floor or something about like, oh, you don't agree with me, whatever. All right, let's go.
Now they just mudsling on Twitter.
Yeah, that's all it is now. They get on CNN, they get on MSNBC or whatever, and like talk about how, they're not being bought out by Nabisco or whoever. They're more politically correct.
Yeah.
It's just, oh man, I just so discontent.
Well, I think the fact that lobbying is even close to being legal is ridiculous.
I mean,
it's blatant crime. It's like blatant crime and cronyism. And I probably wouldn't have so much of a problem with it if it wasn't drawing directly on our tax dollars, but it is. And it's not a game when I'm losing 20% of my paycheck in like a middle class home. Like that's a huge chunk of my money. Where if Donald Trump loses 40% of his income, what is he gonna have, like one less skyscraper? Yeah, he's still gonna have all like the hookers and like alcohol he wants. He don't care.
Yeah, the tax inequality, it's just mind-boggling. That you tax the people that make nothing, and then you make all these tax breaks for those that are making money.
He probably isn't even paying taxes, and he keeps talking about that super wall that he wants to build. And you know what's funny about that? The fact, first of all, it's basically just building another Berlin Wall, which is fucking insane to me that we would repeat history to separate an entire continent with a fucking super wall. That's absurd. Second of all, who do you think is going to build that wall? I would bet any money that he's going to have some subsidiary company that he has a hand in anyway that gets contracted to the government to build that thing.
Yeah.
He saw what McCain did with the military-industrial complex. It was Enron, right? Mm-hmm. He saw what McCain did with that whole thing, and just is following suit with this. And I can almost guarantee you that if he gets into power, that wall is going to happen, and he's going to make a lot of money.
I could definitely see that, and it's bizarre that like that kind of robbery would be taking place in full view of the country as a whole.
Well, he's
like,
the boss. Yeah,
we're like we don't see it right in front of our face that Trump is the obvious wrong choice. Like he represents kind of and he uses it himself in his campaign rhetoric, where he's like, oh, if you're sick of the crony capitalism, or you're sick of these political dynasties and politics as usual, vote for me, because a vote for me, I ran a successful company, blah blah blah.
He's been bankrupted like 4 times.
Things are not going to change appreciably under Trump. Like if we think that, we're deluding ourselves.
There needs to be a non-formative, like an independent party candidate that wins for there to be actual change. Because
I mean, I could see Bernie Sanders running as a Democrat. Like I think it's so weird, because on one side you feel like it might be some sort of a pipe dream, because the dude is so radical on that really like liberal end, and I think that it's only going to work. Like things are only going to get better if you go one way or the other. And like I was all into libertarianism for a long time, but I think that the idea of a completely perfect capitalistic system isn't realistic anymore. Like free market capitalism is kind of dead. Like not free market necessarily. I think anyone should be able to trade any type of like product that they want, and no one should be able to impede on that. But at the same time, like once they instituted Section 8 housing in this country, they put their hand into something and ruined it. And now it's just worse. And they decided that they're going to back off and leave it alone and just let it get worse. Places like Compton and Detroit are so bad because someone meddled in the economies of those places and then decided they weren't going to meddle anymore. And that's what fucking happens. And our country's melting in these places, and people just want to pretend like it's, well, the people that are living there, it's their fault. It's like, yeah, tell that to somebody in Detroit or somebody in West Virginia where all the coal mines got shut down and no one has work anymore. Like,
and in fact, in Detroit,
it's such a nightmare.
75% of the streetlights were off, and just recently, around this,
in Detroit,
in Detroit and around Detroit, like the suburb area of Detroit, there it was literally black outside, and cops weren't able to do their job correctly. Firefighters firefighters were constantly having to go out to house fires because people were just setting fires to abandoned homes. I mean, it's just probably a different era. If you like never been to a place like Detroit, going to Detroit and seeing places like the outskirts, and I mean, the downtown Detroit's fine, it's awesome, but around Detroit, it's in a whole nother story. I mean,
it's ridiculous, man. And I think that like people have Chipotle and Starbucks down the street from their house, and they really don't have to think about that stuff. But then like when you accidentally drive down one of those streets, you see how scared people get. And like I've never been scared in areas like that because I grew up at least halfway near areas like that. And I had friends who lived there, so it wasn't ever so weird to me. But like to be in a car with somebody who's never been there before and drive through it, it's funny to just see how quickly they put their head down and just like try not to look out the windows at anybody.
We speak about Detroit, and I think it's funny that I early when Trump first announced, and I started thinking about it, I started equating him with Biff Tannen, the character from Back to the Future, who was like the town bully and kind of just really braggadocious. And I saw Biff Tannen from Back to the Future too as like a perfect analog. Like if Trump wasn't cartoonish enough already, like this character in Back to the Future 2 kind of symbolize or like iconifies who he is kind of, I think, going forward as a character who right now has money but would soon have power. That neighborhoods would turn into Detroit. I don't know if you guys recall Back to the Future 2, but Marty McFly goes back to Hill Valley, goes back to his house, climbs in only to find that it's occupied by an African-American family, which is just incidental to the fact. But the neighborhood is run down, and there's crime happening in the street, I believe. And the father bursts into the room with a shotgun trained at Marty McFly, yelling at him to get out of the house.
Baseball
and over all of this looms the casino that Biff Tannen opened. And if you look at Detroit, I mean, what do we see? We see rundown houses, you know, miles and miles of rundown houses, and we see casinos, like casinos in downtown. I'm not saying casinos bring those problems. I think it's like maybe an honest way to try and resuscitate the economy or something.
Well, I think people take it as like someone putting a casino somewhere to attack people. Like, oh, you're in poverty, you're more likely to come here. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know if necessarily I look at it as an attack all the time. I think it's just, well, we assume since you don't have a lot of money, you'd probably want to try to win some. I'm sure they benefit from that on some levels, but I don't know. That is kind of a weird thing.
I mean, I like the fact that the principal still lived in the same neighborhood, and he came out with his bulletproof vest on and his round shotgun shells, like, and they're doing a drive-by, and Marty McFly is just like, what's going on? You know what? Like, I feel like people would have that reaction if something like that really did happen. Like, people would be like, what is going on? Like, is this real life, or is this just a dream? Is this a movie?
And that's reality for people there every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard for people to wrap their heads around.
A lot of my family lives in Flint, which is worse than Detroit because it has a higher unemployment rate, higher murder rate. It got devastated when basically GM kind of just like pulled the plug on people. Everyone lost their jobs. People were like, there's literally concrete slabs for acres and acres around the city of Flint where they used to have big, huge plants where they were producing.
Did they just outsource all their labor to China or something?
Well, they automated it. So they had less people that needed to make cars then, and then they were buying parts that they normally manufacture themselves from maybe most of it is outsourced from different countries, but other maybe different areas in the country. So they lost their manufacturing plant for the cars, and they lost a lot of jobs for manufacturing the cars. So, I mean, you just compound that all up on there. Also, what is up with a big, huge business being bailed out by the government? Is it, I mean, it's old news.
Which business?
GM.
Yeah. Good question.
Oh, them getting propped up with a bailout?
Yeah.
The thing with GM is that they made good on those payments. Like they paid it back.
Yeah,
and
they
the
paid all
government
theirs back.
The government made a profit. The banks got billions and billions and billions more, and still haven't paid back shit.
It's like GM. One, I don't think GM should have been bailed out.
I mean, of all the ones to not get bailed out, they seem to be the best choice considering they paid it back.
In hindsight,
I'm more mad at, like, who are some of the banks that got bailed out? It was
Bank
awful.
of America.
Their CEOs got, like, massive bonuses, and then all of a sudden everyone just stopped calling the government back.
How do you get a bonus when your business is failing? If my grandparents' machine shop in Lewiston, Maine went out of business, they wouldn't get bailed out by the fucking government. I can tell you that.
You fail because it's free market capitalism, Ben. And if the consumer decides that they don't want the business, then it'll go under. Except if you're a GM or any bank.
Except if you're too big.
Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing is, not conspiracy, but think about all the cars that you see politicians riding around in, right? The presidential limousine, it's a Cadillac, which is owned by GM. Almost all senators drive around in either a Chrysler.
Well, I'm sure some palms got greased for sure.
It's just like to me, it's like GM is a government-owned car manufacturer because
Absolutely.
the Chevy Tahoe is like one of the big iconic cars that you'll see presidential, senators, Republican, House representatives, whatever, anyone in political position that needs to get driven around, they get put in these.
Frank Underwood gets driven around in a Tahoe.
Yeah, and that's like like certain positions in Congress and whatever, they get a political car, and they get it's not Secret Service, it's like the grade below that, but they get someone that drives around and protects them, whatever, when they travel. So I mean, GM's got their hand in this like big pot. Like, okay, well, we just make cars for the government, they pay us.
I mean, so does there's other companies like that too, and I don't think they got bailed out. But like General Electric is kind of on that same thing. Like all the gun systems in the Marine Corps are like all made by GE, like those big
General
20 millimeter
Dynamics,
cannons.
Yeah. It's like one thing. Like the government, we're so much in debt. How can we even afford to keep paying people? I don't understand. Like, it's just the government.
Credit cards, man.
Oh,
we got low interest rates.
Yeah. And the thing is, you just keep moving your debt into a different credit card, and you're good.
Basically.
And
or we're just like wait until everyone's economy is worse than ours, and then we pay off all our debt when our economy's stronger. But I don't know. Everyone was always talking about how we were going to go to war with China because they were like growing, and now they have this huge housing bubble that's collapsed because they overbuilt all these towns. Have you seen that shit? The ghost towns in China?
It's insane. Like 14 lane highways.
Somebody had to pay for all that, and now they're not being rented.
The government paid one contractor. It was like one of the biggest. He's like one of the richest contractors in the world, and he was like even saying, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a huge bubble," and he goes, "But I'm making a lot of money, so I'm not going to say no."
Yeah, it's for him. Why does he care?
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. He's loaded rich.
Oh man, I could go on for hours talking about how mismanaged the government is, how our taxes don't get used appropriately.
It's super easy. I mean, look at the F-35. That's another good example.
Would you?
I didn't agree with that piece of shit, and that's sorry for cursing so much, by the way.
No, it is what it is. It's a shitbird. But I have a question. Would you vote for a computer president? If we get AI to the point where it is robust enough and powerful enough,
with guidelines,
to
probably
address all of these, would you vote for? Without even, could you be a non-biological entity and run for office?
I think you could.
Well, the thing is, there's the 3 stipulations to be president. You have to be born in the United States, you got to be 35 years old, and you have to have lived on the U.S. continent for 7 consecutive years. So
the Apple II could definitely be elected president because it was born.
Technically, run for president if we could program.
What if some of your parts were made in China?
Well, I mean, Apple's made in China, so
was the brain would have to be made in America. The whole CPU.
So the motherboard would have to be okay.
Yeah.
Or you could say the OS is the brain, depending on how you think about it.
Well, I mean, that's more the interface, though, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is, but the hardware won't do anything until the.
We should have a test run. We should have the mayor of Detroit is replaced by a computer algorithm and a bunch of computer data scientists who work with it to properly address issues in that city.
At what point would you what if it came to the conclusion that the best course of action was to do the Terminator, eliminate humanity? Would we have to all look at each other and go, okay, we're gonna override this function and just go to the next best course of action?
Yeah, see, that's a huge topic of discussion in artificial intelligence. Is the importance on making sure that the AI is friendly. The friendly AI. It's a huge topic. Nick,
well, that's obviously going to be programmed into the framework. It has to be.
Well, there are some that state that putting up, establishing boundaries like that could actually inhibit the very phenomena you're seeking to elicit, that being intelligence. That to say that, oh, well, no matter what, you can't kill anybody. I mean, what if it's a terrorist situation or something? You know what I mean?
You could have fail safes you could remove, in the event that we're overrun. what's the best? Like we could have an emergency mode, but in general operation, it more than likely shouldn't have that be the go-to.
There are scientists who state that there should be a means by which to shut down the internet in the event of a hostile AI taking over. And there was one proposal that stated that you elect 18 different scientists, different places on planet Earth, who all have these keys. And if they all like come together and elect to shut it down, they can do so by all like turning their key at the same time, or issuing some command. I don't know how I feel about that, but if you were to have a hostile AI, it would most certainly use the internet as a means by which to distribute itself around the world.
The internet's completely connected. It would be probably fairly easy for it to move around.
Well, with that being said, this brings podcast episode 8 with our special guest, Alan Moore. You can find him on Instagram at Trailer Park Master Chef, right? Trailer Park Master Chef.
It's at Trailer Park Master Chef on Instagram.
Trailer Park Master Chef. I follow him on Instagram, and he makes some banging looking food.
The whole goal of it is the name and everything. By the way, the whole goal of it is basically people have a negative opinion generally of people who live in trailers, and I've been cooking really good food for a large majority of my life. I've actually gotten a lot better now because we're growing our own food, and I'm getting to kind of learn on my own. So my whole goal is to kind of dispel the myth of like the type of person that lives in a trailer through food. And
it's a good idea. It's a good way.
Definitely, I appreciate that too. I mean, because.
If you type Trailer Park into Instagram, your account is the first account.
What?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Pretty tight.
That's pretty awesome.
It's good, man. I think I'm up to like 320 followers, which isn't great, but they're all loyal, so I actually do have a great following there.
What I would suggest for you and your podcast going forward, because I know you have plans with your wife to start your podcast soon. Set up a Patreon account. I want to point all of our listeners to Patreon. Patreon is how we're able to fund this. Again, we're coming out of pocket, AJ and myself. There's a lot of expense with the website, with bandwidth, with hosting, with the domains, with registering for SoundCloud and everything. There's a lot of overhead. So if you'd like to help us offset that, please check out our PayPal. I'll drop a link in the description. Or please go to patreon.com/BenBusy, where I will be embezzling all the funds secretly so AJ doesn't know. And please help me fund my new vacation and my private jet. Thank you. But in all honesty, like we need the funds. So if you would please go to patreon.com/BenBusy, where I will be embezzling the funds, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
seriously.
help these guys out, man. Honestly, I was talking about this earlier to my wife. Like Ben is probably one of the best people I could ever think of to do a podcast. It's like a legitimately unique individual. This dude is hilarious. He's just on another plane of existence from the rest of us. And I think you guys will get a lot of like listening quality out of listening to this guy.
AJ and I are really excited for the future, and we definitely want to have you back on. Hopefully with greater regularity as we go into the future.
Yeah, and AJ, you're just chopped liver, man. I'm just kidding, man.
There's always that one guy.
You're great too, man. Macomb, you're probably one of the most genuine people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting, man.
And the big thing, I appreciate both of you. I'm glad that we had the chance. That our lives interconnected, and that now we've gone from what we used to do to this. So I feel like everything happens for a reason, and hopefully this can be one of those things where we can look back on it in however many years and that's we started like that. That's awesome.
That was the start of something great.
We can just suck each other off on a weekly basis.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Awesome.
All right, good to go.
So that
all right, very well. I got to take off. I know we got to take off. Well, what's our time hack look like right now, Mac?
All right, that's it for everyone for this podcast. So again, I want to thank everybody listening. Solicit the Patreon. Make sure you follow at Trailer Park Master Chef.
At Trailer Park Master Chef.
Yes. Yeah. So and thanks for listening. We'll get back on the next podcast. Hopefully, be within the week, and we'll have great information and details and all kinds of stuff to talk about. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Alan, for coming on, and thank Ben for having us on here. And thank you. Yeah, thank you. So
thank everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Peace and much love.
World peace, motherfuckers.